So you might see this term a lot if you follow this channel or you've been an active viewer of this channel, which is the term of building ecosystems. So in the past 8 to 9 months, I've been in the process of building out my own ecosystem with softwares I've developed, marketplace I've developed, course directory I've developed, a business directory I've developed, and so on. So much so where I've centralized it on an entire link tree. So in today's video, I'm going to discuss why I chose the direction I chose in the context of building out this ecosystem and how you can apply that for your specific context. So when I say ecosystem, the way I want you to think of an ecosystem is that you plant a seed and that seed grows on its own and requires little to no watering long term. So that's why I have like a little funny chart here where one of those like very simple clip art charts where it just shows a green arrow going up. But the idea here is this. Basically, here's the situation. You are one individual. Now, if you're not one individual and you have a team, this may not apply to you. But assuming you are one individual and you want to access the ability to build ecosystems, there is a couple things we need to kind of go over. Now, just as an overarching thing, the way I currently view ecosystems, or my definition of an ecosystem is, because I'm not even sure if this term is really used like this. Well, I guess it is. It is in the context of software. Like Google's ecosystem, like all of its different apps and suites. My version of ecosystem is kind of like you have a bunch of seeds, you plant them, and you don't necessarily basically give all the sunlight to one seed and then ignore the rest, and the rest die. The way you want to do it is almost in a way where you're coming at it in duration or time periods, where you give certain seeds that you've grown or planted attention, but then you ignore them and pay attention to other seeds. So let's step away from this analogy and just speak in more literal terms for my specific context. So in my specific context, seeds that I had planted were the software, the marketplace, the courses, webcafeai.com, and some other seeds such as just my social media channels. So the reason I planted these seeds though is that with anything in life, it takes time. Therefore, in order to build successful ecosystems on a long-term horizon, you need to just start by planting the seed. Nothing works overnight. Therefore, the way you can best approach it as a single individual is to ensure that every seed you plant has the ability to scale with limited involvement. So it wasn't always like this. The original way I structured and built out webcafeai.com was for around half a year, I myself and some contracted labor was providing services to businesses. So a lot of those people that are contacting me now, you have missed your opportunity to hire me as contract labor. But that used to be how it was. And that's where I got a lot of this early on experience and the ability to build out artificial intelligence integrated automations in the context of B2B services. But here's the issue. Me and the contracted labor that I had at the time could only handle so many different clients. So I ran into kind of a situation here where I did have to basically just went on a walk to be completely blatant or transparent. I went on a walk and I was like, you know what? The skills I learned in artificial intelligence automation are very valuable. I've used them in my own business, and I just see them valuable regardless if you plan on pursuing it or not. I see it valuable for any type of business. Any type of business can leverage artificial intelligence and automation. It's kind of going to be a very much like a one fit sizes all in the context of any business. But knowing that though, in my specific situation, and this is why I always tell people that watch me, think in terms of success. Don't think in terms of I got my first 10 clients. So I want you to think, what is your version of success? And does that version of success make you work 14-hour days? And what I was seeing was that if I went down this route and I continued down this road, my version of success would quickly become 14-hour days. Because my version of success would have been if I had 100 clients a month on retainer, it would require a lot of my time. More time than I was willing to afford. So that is when a pivot occurred. And that is when I personally realized that the way to go about this is basically we still plant seeds. We plant seeds that when they grow and they get bigger, I don't need to keep watering them. I let nature water them. So, in the context of running that service based business, I needed to go out there with my little gardening bucket. If you ever gardened before, you know what I'm talking about. You know, the one with like the little like the little sprouts here. I needed to be there to water the plants. Now, some people might tell you, or just say this is a tree. Now, some people might tell you, well, as you get bigger and you get 100 clients, then you can start hiring people and basically, sourcing labor that way. Well, here's the thing. I want to build a business that requires me not to hire anyone anyway. Because of the fact that now that we do have AI and we do have automation, I know for certainty that the majority of labor that's typically associated with business, I can automate with software now. I don't need to hire an employee. And the reason I do this also, and honestly, I might change my perspective on this in the future as I get older. We'll see. But I'm pretty competent in my skills when it comes to software and automation that I think I can basically automate majority of labor associated with a business. The reason I do that though is because of the liabilities associated with hiring an employee, the cost associated with hiring an employee, the amount of money that it burns in a business when I can allocate that to software. So saying all of that, it basically put me to a point where I am now, where the name of the game for anyone that's starting a business or is a solo entrepreneur is you want to build ecosystems. And ecosystems is where you make your money because ecosystems are inherently robust because they have multiple income streams. Now, ecosystems, and what's great about ecosystems is that you don't have to necessarily go all in on one of your plants. They grow naturally. Now, there's one big thing I want to point out here before I continue this video is that for ecosystems to work, there needs to be consistent traffic. So in my context, that consistent traffic, if you can't tell by watching this video, is social media. So for me, that honestly really just comes from YouTube up to this point. I've been working at TikTok, and then honestly, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter. That's very much like I'm just being personal there. It is what it is. But TikTok in the future, I see potential ROI on. But majority of my traffic comes from YouTube. So that's basically what is funneled into my ecosystem. But here's the thing. The way you got to look at it isn't like I built out, for example, I built out, 8 courses. I got all these product selections. I need to learn how to do, landing. I need to learn how to do email marketing better. I need to learn how to do text marketing better. I need to learn how to do all this stuff. No. Stop. What you need to do is you need to worry about your ecosystem. And the way you approach ecosystems is you basically set small investments into different categories of your niche. Small net investments that you know will pay off in time. So one thing I want you to look at is, let's say you are a web development agency and you yourself are running into the issue of, hey, I'm getting a lot of clients, but I'm getting longer days. I'm getting more stress. I want you to sit down and figure out a way to package, if not all your services, some of your services in some type of pre-built format that you could then sell in a digital format, e.g. what I did here. So these were some of the popular services that I got requested for personally, and I packaged them as pre-built automations that an individual can buy for way cheaper than paying an engineer. You're telling me you only pay $97 to get an AI article generated for your business? Way cheaper than an engineer. But at least I can still receive return on that investment from the education I know in my specific industry. So the first thing that you want to do when you build your ecosystem is whatever your hard skill is, figure out a way to make it scalable. Because end of the day, working or having 50 to 100 clients sounds like a headache. Alternatively though, packaging those skills as a nice little present but maybe severely undercharging for those certain value points is alternatively better than you spending hours dealing with clients. Now, that's not saying dealing with clients is bad. That's just saying your time is valuable. Because here's what's happened. Here is what happens when you create ecosystems. They grow. So, as you can probably tell from where I'm at currently, my ecosystem involves the marketplace, software, tube stamp, courses, and then a business index. So if you remember from the earlier parts of this video, there is no true way to achieve, I guess the when I say the only other part of the ecosystem would obviously be at the top of the funnel, right? Social media. But the only way to actually receive return on an investment on your ecosystem, on your different parts of it, is you can't focus on all of it at once. It's just impossible. You're not going to be able to give it enough attention where you actually are going to be able to see improvement from it. So, the strategy I like to use personally is I like working in waves. And the way I do this is no matter what, I've tied my hands behind my back and I've told myself the first 6, 7, 8, from basically 8 a.m. to 12, if not 1 p.m., I'm working on social media, creating, cutting, uploading content, because that is what keeps the ecosystem alive as of now. The latter part of the half of the day, so we're going to draw this out real quick. First half of the day is your traffic. How am I receiving traffic? So this would be social media. Why are we choosing social media, Corbin? Because it's free. The only thing it costs you as an individual is time. Put down the time. Also, what is really crazy and advantageous is that sooner or later, your traffic source actually becomes monetizable as well in the context of just ingesting your content. But that comes down later. The second half of your day when building out an ecosystem is you're going to choose one part of your ecosystem to focus on and build. Not all four, not two, choose one. So you're going to spend basically the first half of your day on the way you receive traffic, and the second half of your day, the way you alternatively convert traffic in other contexts. E.g., your content is already going to be genuinely around the stuff you care about. Therefore, the additional income sources past your content is probably going to be something similar. If I had a baking channel, I'd probably have some baking ebooks in there, stuff of this nature. But the idea here is this: to successfully build out an ecosystem, you need to give love to every single one of your plants. And this comes in spurts. So as a very specific example, all of December up till probably the last week, so maybe for the last 2 to 3 weeks, this is going to be my marketplace. I spent around basically the latter half of every day for the last 3 weeks on the marketplace, improving the marketplace, providing more offers. And then I will forget about it. I probably won't touch my marketplace again until maybe 2 months from now. But it exists and the seeds planted. And the SEO, Google search engine, is incurring. All those pages are getting pushed by Google search now. It's organically getting traffic and through alternative means, stuff of this nature. TubeStamp, big one. I had to plant this seed and basically nurture this seed for 3 months. And I ignored all my other seeds because I was so focused on TubeStamp and creating courses. If I created a course and it took me 3 weeks to create that course, I'm spending 3 weeks on that seed. So that's how I want you to look at this. This isn't necessarily like you're basically diversifying your bet. You're putting yourself in a position where one doesn't have to necessarily outshine the other. They all work mutually. It's all mutually beneficial. It's all within the same industry, all within the same niche. So you would do the same thing for your business. And the idea is this: as you grow, as you build a bigger ecosystem, the additional seeds you add to it become very obvious. Now, one seed here that you might say that is pretty obvious that I didn't have early on is that marketplace. I didn't have that until basically 3 months ago. So that is a obvious seed that didn't occur to me until much later on into my YouTube journey. There will be more seeds in this ecosystem. But for now, this is how you approach in building an ecosystem like this. Now, there is two main things I want to point out here, which are tremendous upsides and tremendous advantages about building a system like this. That's going to be number one. All of this requires zero of my attention. Basically, the the plants themselves don't require much nurturing from me. They're kind of just automatic. Therefore, the only thing that stops this system from basically growing more is if I turn off the faucet of social media. But as we know, social media, it compounds, and over time, it'll keep going. But I mean, in reality, I'm gonna still post every day, or at least post pretty often, because I've basically made the conscious decision in my 20s that I kind of want to do this for the next, at least 5 to 6 years. I made that conscious decision, so I'll be here. I'm not disappearing. I plan on giving this kind of content more and stuff of this nature. But idea is this though: you're building this. Let's say you want to replicate this. Let's say you want to emulate this, right? If you've gotten this far in this video, that means that I basically scratched some part of your brain where you're like, I like this. This looks good to me. I want to get into this. Let me give you some insight. You basically, there's that old saying that the farmer or the man, or let's just say the farmer that plants the seed won't be able to see the shade or won't be able to sit under the tree with the shade. Basically, they're planting the seed knowing that they'll never reap the benefits of that seed when it becomes a tree and they get to sit in the shade. Like maybe their grandchildren will, right? Basically, like, don't throw garbage into the ocean, right? Stuff of this nature. Knowing that, obviously, we don't have to wait until our grandchildren to get paid out in this kind of ecosystem, but it does take time. It does take time. So, a business, anything comes down to numbers. It really just comes down to numbers. You could have the best product in the world, but if only 1,000 people knows it exists, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you'll still probably only get a 5% conversion rate. So knowing that all it really does matter in that context is numbers, we need to know how to leverage that. So let's turn it on its head. For me personally, for me to get enough momentum in social media, for me to realize that basically I'm gonna do this for the next 5 to 6 years, it took 8 months. And it wasn't necessarily like 8 months, oh, this is obvious. It was 8 months of I'm trying this because it's something new. I'm trying this because I've done business in the past and I've seen other content creators in this field that I feel like I could do it better than. And I'm trying this because of the fact that it's digital and it's inherently scalable. But those 8 months, I had no indication whether this was going to work or not. And to be honest, if you look at my subscriber count, I still technically have no indication. But I'm so far in at this point, and this has reached a sizable enough income to this point that I've realized, oh yeah, this has potential. But it took 8 months. But here's the thing. Here's how you make that 8 months become one of the highest ROI 8 months you've ever done in your entire life. During those 8 months, that's when you start planting the seeds. I want you to let that sink in for a second. You're not building that ecosystem so within a month you get automatic return. Mm-mm. You're building that ecosystem so that when your top of your funnel, your free traffic, gets so large that when they finally access all the different product selection you have, e.g., all the different plants you've grown, you have so many options, so many different prices, so many different niches, so many different structuring of low tier to high tier items that by the time they've reached your ecosystem, it's a full blown forest. Therefore, the way you look at building something like this is in the beginning, and honestly now, you really don't care what that view count says. You don't care if that video got 100 views, that video got 300 views, that video got 50 views. Because the only thing I need you to care about is building that ecosystem. So what will happen is that through building that, you'll learn more skills, you'll gain more skills, you'll do more things, but also it becomes evidently more obvious that as you grow from your top of your funnel, it really does lead down to your bottom of your funnel and you convert more. Now, I'm saying all of this with only around 25. Okay, maybe that's a big deal. I am hard on myself sometimes when it comes to this kind of stuff, but 25,000 subscribers, right? I'm saying all this with 25,000 subscribers. But what happens to this ecosystem and this funnel when I have 100,000 subscribers? That's the way you got to think. Don't set yourself up where if you gain an advantage, not advantage, but if you reach a certain mark, for example, me, I reach 100,000 subscribers, I am not worried at all about working an extra hour a day. Why is that? Because all the plants that I've been growing are intentionally and specifically made so that in theory, I could have no internet for a week and be fine. Because of the fact that none of my plants require my attention. They're all automatic. They do require my attention. Artificial intelligence can take in charge in the context of software. So knowing that, let me know if you want to see more on this topic. This was very much of a really just overarching view of how I'm approaching business. This seems to be the most optimal way as a solo entrepreneur due to the fact that my biggest issue right now is time. Is there like 20 other seeds I want to plant here? Yes. But it's time. So you don't want to overextend yourself. You want to make sure you focus on the right things and give the right things your time. That's basically your biggest issue in this entire system I just built out here is going to be smokes. I don't have enough time in the day. But what I can tell you is that is why you focus your day. One part being focusing on the top of the funnel. Basically, I don't even want to call it the top of the funnel. The first part of the day is basically like, no one knows who you are. No one cares what you have to say. The first half of the day is just like, you exist. It's not even about anything else other than you exist. People don't even know who you are. Crazy, right? Second half of the day, though, is very much up to your discretion. But what I found is optimally used in my context is basically keeping your second half of the day focused on very specific plants in your ecosystem and almost spreading it out like, hey, I'm going to take a mental note for the next 3 weeks. I want to accomplish this with this plant, X, Y, and Z. Let's focus on that. It's the best way to approach it. I've never personally had a day where I was like, I'm going to do the marketplace and I'm going to do tube stamp and I'm going to do the business index. No. It's either I'm doing tube stamp all second half of the day or I'm doing the marketplace all second half of the day. You really got to organize it that way because your brain, you just don't want to overrun it, right? So knowing all this, that kind of concludes today's video. Let me know if you like this kind of content and this style of video. I'm going to leave a playlist at the end here called Corbin AI Talks. I do more stuff like this and specifically more stuff SaaS oriented as well, which is pretty cool. Make sure you leave a like if you felt like you learned something today. That's about it, I guess. So I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for tuning in. And yes, surprise, I'm an AI avatar. Make sure to explore more here at Corbin AI, where we demystify AI for your personal and business life. Until next time.